All right, diving into Cardano games today. Specifically, a proposal from the Knights Guild of Cornucopias for something they call adaptive asset contracts. Now you might be thinking, what in the world is an adaptive asset contract, and why should I care? Well, imagine this. You've got all this cool stuff in your Cardano games, virtual land, rare weapons, even in-game currency, but it's all kind of siloed, right? Like having a separate bank account for each game, which honestly is kind of a pain.
Yeah, it is. And what the Knights Guild is proposing could be a real game changer for players and investors alike. They want to make these assets more dynamic, more useful.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. They're basically saying the current situation, where your awesome virtual sword just sits there in one game when you're not playing, is a missed opportunity.
Exactly. It's like having a car that just sits in your garage.
Yeah.
What if you could rent it out when you're not using it? Or even use it to earn some extra income, through ride sharing.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thinking they're applying to digital assets. In the metaverse?
Okay. I'm starting to see where they're going with this. So how do these adaptive asset contracts actually work? Are we talking about some super complicated, like smart contract wizardry?
It's actually more straightforward than you might think. The idea is to create a platform where you can set up customizable contracts for your gaming assets. So let's say you own some prime virtual real estate in one game. You could use this platform to easily rent it out to another player. Or maybe you have a rare weapon you're not using. You could loan it out to a friend. Or even create a scholarship program for new players using your assets.
So instead of my digital stuff, just gathering virtual dust, it can actually be out there working for me, generating value. Even when I'm not playing, that's pretty cool.
Precisely. It's about shifting from passive ownership to active utilization. And the beauty of it is they're aiming for a user-friendly interface, no coding experience required. They're envisioning something like drag, drop, and done.
That's key because, let's be real, most of us aren't blockchain developers. We just want to enjoy our games and maybe get a little extra value out of our hard-earned digital loot. So how do they plan to make this all happen? Is this just a pie-in-the-sky idea, or do they have a concrete roadmap?
They actually have a pretty detailed plan laid out, and it starts with a focus on land management within their own game, Cornucopias. They're going to use that as a testing ground, a proof of concept.
Makes sense. Start small, work out the kinks, and then expand from there. But they're not just aiming to be the land management solution for one game, right?
Oh, absolutely not. Their vision is much broader. They want this platform to work for NEY Cardano games and even attract users from other blockchains.
That's ambitious, but if they can pull it off, it could be huge for the entire Cardano ecosystem.
Exactly. It could really put Cardano on the map as a leader in blockchain gaming innovation. And they've got the resources to back up their ambition. They've outlined a budget of 255,000 ADA to bring this vision to life.
Okay, let's talk money. How are they planning to use those funds?
Well, they've broken it down into three key areas. The bulk of the funding, 125,000 ADA, is dedicated to core platform development. That includes things like building the framework, designing the smart contracts, and making sure everything is secure and reliable.
That's a good chunk of change, but it makes sense. Building a robust and scalable platform is crucial if they want to attract a large user base.
Absolutely. And then they're allocating 75,000 ADA to marketing, community engagement, and launch. That tells me they're serious about getting the word out and building a strong community. Around this project from the get-go, they understand that community adoption is key to success in the blockchain space.
Right, because even the most amazing technology is worthless if nobody uses it.
Exactly. And finally, they're setting aside 55,000 ADA for user testing, feedback, documentation, and ongoing development. This is crucial for creating a platform that truly meets the needs of its users.
It sounds like they're really committed to getting this right, not just rushing something out the door and then abandoning it.
Yes. Their emphasis on community feedback and iterative development suggests they're in it for the long haul.
Okay, so they've got the vision, they've got the plan, they've got the resources, but are they actually the right team to pull this off? What kind of expertise do they bring to the table?
Well, they've assembled a team with a diverse range of skills and experience in blockchain development, gaming integration, and community building.
So they've got the technical chops, the gaming know-how, and the community building skills. Sounds like a pretty solid foundation.
It does. But of course, no project is without its challenges. There are always hurdles to overcome, risks to mitigate.
Absolutely. So what are some of the potential roadblocks they might encounter along the way? And how are they planning to address them?
One challenge they'll face is ensuring widespread adoption. They'll need to convince both game developers to integrate their platform and players to embrace this new way of managing their assets.
Right, because it's one thing to build a cool platform, but it's another thing entirely to get people to actually use it. So how are they going to tackle that challenge?
Well, they're focusing heavily on creating a user-friendly experience, making it as easy as possible for both developers and players to integrate and utilize these contracts. And remember that commitment to community feedback we talked about. That's going to be crucial for making sure they're building something that people actually want and need.
It's like they're saying, we're not just building this in a vacuum. We want to hear from you, the users, every step of the way.
Exactly. They're taking a collaborative approach, which is really refreshing to see.
Okay, so they're aware of the adoption challenge, and they've got a plan to address it. What other potential hurdles do they need to be prepared for?
Well, there's always the risk of unforeseen technical complexities or security vulnerabilities popping up during development. Building on a blockchain like Cardano is complex, and there's always the potential for unexpected issues to arise.
So they need to be prepared to adapt and problem solve on the fly.
Exactly. But they seem to have a good grasp of the technical challenges involved.
Yeah.
And their emphasis on thorough testing and iterative development suggests they're taking a cautious and measured approach.
That's reassuring. So they've got the team, the plan, the awareness of potential challenges. But let's face it, they're not operating in a vacuum. There are other players out there trying to solve similar problems in the blockchain gaming space.
Absolutely. They're entering a competitive landscape. There are other platforms emerging that offer asset management solutions. The Knights Guild will need to differentiate themselves and clearly demonstrate the unique value they bring to the table.
So what makes them stand out from the crowd? What's their secret sauce?
Well, their focus on user-friendliness is a big one. They're really trying to make this technology accessible to everyone, not just blockchain experts. And their emphasis on community feedback and collaboration sets them apart. They're not just building a platform, they're building a community.
Okay, so they're focused on ease of use, community building, and collaboration. But those are all kind of intangible things. What about the actual technology itself? What makes their adaptive asset contracts unique?
Well, that's where the adaptive part comes in. They're designing these contracts to be incredibly flexible and customizable, allowing players to create agreements tailored to their specific needs. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
So it's like a set of building blocks that you can use to create all sorts of different agreements and arrangements.
Exactly. They're giving you the tools to craft the perfect contract for your specific situation. Whether you want to rent out your virtual land, loan out a rare item, or even create a scholarship program for new players, the possibilities are practically limitless.
Okay, I'm definitely getting a better sense of what they're trying to achieve. But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the bigger picture. What does all of this mean for the future of gaming on Cardano?
If the Knights Guild succeeds, we could see a seismic shift in how players interact with and value their in-game assets. Imagine a more dynamic and interconnected gaming ecosystem where assets flow freely between games. Players have more control over their digital possessions, and everyone benefits from increased liquidity and opportunity.
It sounds like they're envisioning a future where your digital assets aren't just static items locked away in one game, but dynamic tools that you can use to participate in a vibrant and interconnected metaverse economy.
Exactly. It's a pretty exciting vision, and one that has the potential to transform not just gaming, but the entire concept of ownership in the digital age.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground so far. We've talked about the problem they're trying to solve, the proposed solution, their plan of attack, the challenges they face, and the potential impact on the Cardano ecosystem. But let's get even more specific. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll take a closer look at the nitty-gritty details of the proposed adaptive asset contracts platform.
We'll break down their roadmap, explore the key features and functionalities they're planning to build, and examine how this platform could revolutionize the way we think about digital asset ownership in the metaverse.
Just stick with us, because things are about to get really interesting. We'll be back right after this.
All right, so let's zoom in a little closer and examine exactly how the Knights Guild plans to bring this adaptive asset contracts platform to life.
Yeah, they've laid out a clear roadmap with several key milestones, starting with building the foundation of the platform itself.
So kind of like laying the groundwork before you can start constructing the actual building.
Exactly. This initial phase is all about setting up the framework, getting those core asset management features in place, and ensuring everything's built on a solid, secure foundation. And of course, from day one, they're prioritizing a user-friendly interface because they want to make this technology accessible to everyone, not just blockchain whizzes.
Right, because let's be honest, clunky, complicated interface would be a major barrier to adoption. Absolutely. They know that if it's not easy to use, people simply won't use it.
Yeah.
So they're putting a lot of effort into making sure the platform is intuitive and straightforward, even for someone with no prior experience with blockchain technology.
Okay, so foundation first. User-friendliness baked in from the start. What comes next?
Well, the next milestone is where things start to get really interesting. They're going to tackle their first real-world use case, land management within Cornucopias.
So this is where the rubber meets the road, where they take this abstract concept and show us how it works in a real gaming environment.
Precisely. It's one thing to talk about the theoretical possibilities of adaptive asset contracts.
Yeah.
But it's another thing entirely to demonstrate how they can function in a real game with real players and real digital assets.
And I imagine using their own game as a testing ground gives them a lot of control and flexibility.
Absolutely. They could experiment, iterate, and fine-tune the platform based on real-world feedback. Before rolling it out to a wider audience, it's a smart strategy.
Okay, so land management in Cornucopias is the first big test. What kind of things will players be able to do with these contracts?
Well, imagine being able to easily rent out your virtual land to other players. Maybe you've got a plot of land that's perfect for farming, but you don't have time to tend to it yourself. You can set up a contract that allows another player to farm your land for a share of the profits.
So it's like being a virtual landlord, collecting rent from your digital tenants.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just collecting rent. Think about the possibilities. For collaboration and community building, players could team up to develop land, pool resources, or even create unique in-game experiences together, all facilitated by these smart contracts.
So it's not just about individual players maximizing their own profits. It's also about fostering a sense of community and cooperation within the game.
Precisely. It has the potential to create a much more dynamic and engaging gaming experience for everyone involved.
Okay, so land management is a pretty compelling use case, but remember, their ambition extends far beyond just one game.
Oh, absolutely. Once they've proven the concept, with land management in Cornucopias, they'll move on to milestone 3, which is all about expanding the platform to encompass a much wider range of gaming assets.
So we're talking about contracts for weapons, armor, in-game currency, even things like crafting materials or special abilities.
Exactly. And this is where the adaptive part really comes into play. They want to give players the tools to create contracts for virtually any type of asset imaginable, tailored to their specific needs and the unique characteristics of each game.
So it's not just about predefined contract templates. It's about giving players the flexibility to create truly custom agreements that fit their specific goals and the unique context of the game they're playing.
Exactly. It's about empowering players to be creative and entrepreneurial with their digital assets, forging their own paths within the metaverse economy.
Okay, so they're planning to expand the scope of the platform to include all sorts of different assets and use cases. What's the next step in their roadmap?
Well, before they roll out this expanded version of the platform, they're going to do something really smart and open it up to community feedback through beta testing.
So they're not just going to launch this thing into the wild and hope for the best?
Nope. They understand that community involvement is absolutely crucial to success, especially in the blockchain space. They want to get real players using the platform, testing out the features, providing feedback, and helping them identify any potential issues or areas for improvement before they launch it to a wider audience.
So it's kind of like a collaborative development process where the community plays an active role in shaping the final product.
Exactly. They're taking a very transparent and community-driven approach, which is really encouraging to see.
And speaking of community, that brings us to their final milestone, the full platform launch.
Okay, so they've built the foundation, tested the concept with land management, expanded the platform to include a wider range of assets, and gathered feedback from the community. Now it's time for the big reveal. Exactly. But even after the official launch, their work isn't done. They're committed to ongoing development, constantly refining and improving the platform based on user feedback and the evolving needs of the Cardano gaming ecosystem.
So it's not a one-and-done project. It's an ongoing, iterative process, which is really the only way to build a truly successful platform in such a dynamic and rapidly evolving space.
Absolutely. And they're not just focusing on the technology itself. They're also committed to creating comprehensive documentation and support resources to help users get the most out of the platform.
So they're building a robust platform, they're fostering a strong community, and they're providing the support and resources people need to succeed. Sounds like they're really laying the groundwork for something special here.
They are, but of course, no matter how well prepared you are, there are always going to be challenges and uncertainties when you're building something as ambitious as this.
Absolutely. So let's talk about some of the potential hurdles they might encounter along the way. What are some of the things that could trip them up and throw them off course?
Well, one of the biggest challenges they'll face is ensuring widespread adoption. They've got to convince game developers to integrate their platform into their games. And they've got to convince players to embrace this new way of managing their assets.
Yeah.
And that's not always easy.
Right, because even if they build the most amazing platform in the world, it won't matter if nobody uses it.
Exactly. So they need to be really strategic about their marketing and outreach efforts. They need to clearly articulate the value proposition of their platform, both for developers and for players. They need to build strong relationships within the Cardano gaming community, and they need to constantly be looking for ways to make their platform more appealing and accessible.
Okay, so adoption is a big one. What other potential challenges do they need to be prepared for?
Well, there's always the risk of unforeseen technical complexities or security vulnerabilities popping up. During development, building on a blockchain like Cardano is incredibly complex, and there are always going to be unexpected challenges and obstacles that arise along the way.
So they need to be prepared to adapt and problem solve on the fly.
Exactly. And they need to have a rock-solid team of developers who are not only skilled, but also incredibly dedicated and passionate about this project. Because, let's face it, there are going to be times when things get tough, when they hit a roadblock, when they have to pull all-nighters to solve a critical issue. And it's that passion and dedication that will ultimately see them through.
Okay, so technical challenges are a given. What about the competitive landscape? They're not the only ones trying to solve this problem.
Absolutely not. There are other players in this space, other platforms offering similar asset management solutions. The Knights Guild needs to be aware of their competition. They need to understand what sets them apart, and they need to constantly be looking for ways to innovate and stay ahead of the curve.
So it's not enough to just build a good platform. They have to build a great platform, one that stands out from the crowd and offers something truly unique and valuable.
Exactly. Yeah. And they need to be able to articulate that value proposition clearly and convincingly to both developers and players.
Okay, so they've got a lot on their plate. But they also seem to be aware of the challenges they face. And they seem to have a thoughtful plan for addressing them. So let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the team behind this project. Who are these people and what kind of experience do they bring to the table?
Well, they've assembled a team with a diverse range of skills and experience, including blockchain development, gaming integration, community building, and project management. These folks have a proven track record of success in their respective fields, and they're bringing that expertise to bear on this project.
No, they're not just a bunch of starry-eyed idealists with a cool idea. They're seasoned professionals with the skills and experience necessary to turn that idea into a reality.
Exactly. And it's not just about their technical skills. It's also about their passion, their dedication, and their shared belief, and the transformative potential of this technology. They're not just building a platform. They're building a future.
Okay, so they've got the team, the plan, the awareness of the challenges, and the passion to see it through. But let's zoom out for a moment and talk about the bigger picture. What are the broader implications of this project? How could adaptive asset contracts potentially change the way we think about ownership, value creation, and the very nature of digital worlds?
Well, I think we're witnessing a fundamental shift in how we view and interact with digital assets. For a long time, digital ownership has been very static and siloed. Your items were essentially trapped within a single game or platform.
Right, like those rare items you collected in your favorite MMO that you couldn't do anything with outside of that specific game.
Exactly, but adaptive asset contracts represent a step towards a much more fluid, dynamic model of digital ownership, where your assets can move freely between different experiences, where they can be utilized in new and innovative ways, and where they can generate value, even when you're not actively using them.
It's like the difference between owning a physical book that sits on your shelf and owning an ebook that you can access on any device, lend to friends, or even sell when you're finished with it. It's about expanding the possibilities of ownership.
Precisely. And I think this shift has the potential to revolutionize, not just gaming, but the entire concept of the metaverse. Imagine a world where your digital identity, your assets, your creations can seamlessly flow between different virtual worlds and experiences. It's a world of unprecedented interoperability and creative freedom.
So it's not just about making games more fun or profitable. It's about building the foundations of a truly open and interconnected metaverse where users have more control over their digital lives, or where the possibilities for creativity and innovation are limitless.
Exactly. And I think the Knights Guild is at the forefront of this movement. With their adaptive asset contracts platform, they're not just building a cool technology, they're helping to shape the future of the metaverse.
It's a pretty exciting time to be following this space, that's for sure. We're just scratching the surface here. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore some of the broader implications of this technology and discuss what it could mean for the future of gaming, the metaverse, and even the way we think about work and investment in the digital age.
We'll delve into the potential benefits and challenges of this new paradigm of digital ownership and consider how it might shape the evolution of the metaverse in the years to come.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this quick break. Okay, so we've talked about the Knights Guild's vision, their plan, the tech, the team. Now let's kind of step back and consider the bigger picture here. What does this all mean for the future?
Well, what's fascinating here is that we're not just talking about making games more fun or profitable. We're talking about a potential paradigm shift in how we think about ownership.
Yeah.
In the digital age.
Yeah, it's almost like we're moving from a world of digital scarcity to a world of digital abundance, where our digital possessions aren't just, static items, but dynamic assets that can be used and leveraged in all sorts of creative ways.
Exactly. And this has huge implications for the metaverse. Imagine a metaverse where your digital identity, your assets, your creations can seamlessly flow between different virtual worlds and experiences.
Yeah, right. It's like the difference between having a bunch of separate walled-off gardens and having one vast interconnected ecosystem where ideas and value can flow freely.
Precisely. And this kind of interoperability could unleash a wave of creativity and innovation that we can barely even imagine right now.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing to think about. But let's bring it back down to earth for a moment. How can this impact things like work and investment in the metaverse?
Well, if we can create contracts for virtual tasks, it opens up a whole new world of possibilities for remote work and freelancing within the metaverse. Imagine virtual architects designing and building digital structures, virtual farmers cultivating virtual crops, or even virtual event planners organizing virtual conferences and concerts.
Yeah, it's like the gig economy on steroids. And what about investment? How could adaptive asset contracts change the game for investors?
Well, as digital assets become more liquid and dynamic, they become much more attractive to investors. We could see the emergence of specialized funds and investment vehicles focused specifically on managing and trading these adaptive assets.
Right. It's like the early days of the internet where savvy investors saw the potential of this new technology and made a fortune by getting in early.
Exactly. And just like the internet revolutionized the way we communicate and do business, I think the metaverse has the potential to revolutionize the way we work, play, and interact with each other on a fundamental level.
So what's the key takeaway here for our listeners? What should they be thinking about as they watch this technology unfold?
I think the most important thing is to keep an open mind and embrace the possibilities. The metaverse is still in its early stages, and things are evolving rapidly. The Knights Guild's proposal for the bear, adaptive asset contracts, is just one example of the kind of innovative thinking that's shaping this space.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder that we're not just passively consuming these digital experiences. We have the power to shape them, to create value, and to build a future that's truly our own.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe one day you'll be crafting your own clever contracts and reaping the rewards in the ever-evolving metaverse.
It's an exciting time to be alive, that's for sure. Until next time, keep exploring, keep innovating, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the digital world.